Welcome back to Comics.fm. JP Black here. My guest is Ryan Kaufman. Should I rename it Comics.am?
You would be best to do that because we are on the AM side of things.
That's right. What happens if AM goes away? Do you go away?
I can't tell you the number of times I've contemplated what happens, but I think Congress has our back. So
okay, you know what? As long as there's old white men fighting for you, then you're in good shape. Ryan Kaufman works in the Colorado Springs markets. He is the host of Xtra Sports 1300, where you cover everything Southern Colorado sports, from Air Force to the Olympic Training Center, right, Ryan?
Yeah, we got a ton of the national governing bodies for those sports in Colorado Springs. So I have a lot of those athletes on, and yeah, Nuggets, Broncos, all those teams as well. So
yeah, and it gives you a little bit of free reign because you're not the home station of the Denver teams. So if you need to be critical, you can be, right?
Well, yeah, and I'm certainly that. I grew up that kind of a fan, and I think you can relate to this being where you're from. Mm-hmm. I was raised to be a critical fan. It doesn't mean that I don't love my favorite teams, right, but it's always their bums and everything. Sure. Now I try to say it more eloquently now that I'm a talk show host, but it's basically that message. I'm not afraid to
you say homeless instead of bum, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I always used to say. Like, growing up in the Chicago area, I used to always joke, the greatest job in the world is backup quarterback of the Bears, because you are a hero. Never buying a drink for yourself. You are just as soon as you get that job, though, oh, you're a bum. You're awful.
No, and the Broncos used to be that way forever too, right? Yeah. When you and I were.
Yeah, sure. Well, here's the difference, though. Broncos, I mean, you've got John Elway and Peyton Manning. We got some good times for a while, Mm-hmm. Bears don't always have that. We've had, 50 quarterbacks in the last 20 years.
But you got one now.
Yeah, we got one now.
Hang on to him. Hang on to do what's best for Caleb.
I'm a fan. He's great. But I was a fan of Justin Fields too. So,
well, I've been accused of. It's funny, you do this for long enough, and things that you don't think are going to stick to you. Like, especially in sports, I was very high on Justin Fields, and I wanted the Broncos to take him, and still to this day, I spent this season arguing that Justin Fields should be the quarterback of the Steelers instead of Russell Wilson. Yeah. But it's just funny you do this for long enough, and what takes or what opinions kind of stick to you. Yeah. And anytime I mention Justin Fields, then I get a bunch of text messages from listeners going, "Here you go again with your Justin Fields."
That's the difference. But when you're a broadcaster, especially in the digital age where nothing dies, right? It stays forever. In the old radio days, people could accuse you because people's memories are still great. But now we have the written word online, and of course, you are held. Everyone else could change their opinions all the time, but you are stuck with being a Fields guy no matter what.
I know, and to me, I'll make the case that getting new evidence in, it's a sign of maturation that I'm able to change my opinion and evolve on things. But no, once you say something, you're tied to it for the rest.
Which
of your
is
life.
Crazy. In our current, everything is an argument, right? You can't like LeBron and Jordan. You can't like Marvel and DC. You can never like more than one thing. Yet somebody like you says, "Can I just change my opinion?" No, you cannot change your opinion. But I have more information. I don't care. Every hill must be died upon, no matter what.
Right. And now I have to get on the air and talk about how Josh Rosen was hard done by the Cardinals, and if he just would have gotten that one opportunity, Josh Rosen would have been great. But
I'll tell you, Ryan, you do a great job of always having compelling content on your show, fielding listener calls and texts and going through all that. You're also now the program director of the other AM station in the building, KVOR. That one, very different from your normal persona. How are you navigating the other side of the coin, so to speak?
I actually really like it because from that perspective, I'm hardly ever on air. And if I'm ever on that station, it's for sports-related reasons.
Okay.
So
like who kneeled and who didn't?
No, I have said that I don't want to be in those kind of conversations. Just, hey, if you want an update on Bo Nix, I'm your guy.
No Colin Kaepernick updates.
No, thank you. I don't want to be a part of that. But it's just, it's all these things that I try to internalize and do myself. Now I can put it into practice with other people.
Yeah.
And see, if it kind of lands. And I think coaching up other talent, and we don't have a ton of personalities on that station, but the talent that I do interact with, I think they feed off of one another. Like I make a suggestion to a talent, and then I hear them kind of put it into practice. I'm like, well, I'm going to do that for myself. So I think coaching or, making suggestions to other hosts has helped me become a better host, because I've seen how that advice maybe that I give them works or doesn't work, and then I can use it for my own benefit. Yeah,
practice what you preach. I think there's something that goes with, not everybody can be in sports, a great coach. It does not always mean they were a great player. Sometimes the best coaches were not so great players because they had to try a little harder and learn the game. And Steve Kerr, for example, And I think that you get the opportunity to kind of put that into place and use it on your own show. And we're going to talk about how that station might have something to do with the comic we're going to talk about. But I want to also mention you and I, we've done a couple podcasts together. We did our wrestling podcast, Botch Please, which, I said nothing dies on the internet. I was trying to find a picture to show someone the other day, and it's almost all gone. Like the entire history we had was almost eradicated completely. I found one image on Google Images with all like us kind of like around each other for Botch Please. But I did find some 3SG. We had the Three Souls and a Ginger podcast. And you were the Ginger, obviously, the Ginge Watch, which, by the way, you changed Ginge Watch. I'm a little upset because I gave you the Ginge Watch name on Instagram and just...
Was that from you?
Yeah, of course it was from me. Yeah, just like I remember everything. Just like your listeners remember you're a Justin Fields guy. I remember you got to be Ginger because you were doing gingerly tweets on Twitter. And I'm like, you got to be...
Still do.
Yeah, Ginge Watch, like binge watch. And all of a sudden you're like, I'm going to go with my name. It's like, whoa...
Yeah, you get to a certain point when you have literally dozens of fans like I do, and dozens of followers, you want to make sure that brand recognition is there.
Yeah, it's kind of like, back in the old days, we all had funny email addresses. Like my friend Josh.
Hotmail.com.
Yeah, my friend Josh. The other day I was like, hey, I'm going to send you this. I go, what's your email again? I'm thinking it's going to be his name, his last name. He goes, X-Wing Pilot 69. I'm like, of course it's X-Wing Pilot 69 at Yahoo. I'm like, you use Yahoo for things that aren't fantasy football? Okay, that's weird because that's their one thing. So, Ryan, besides all the history we have, you're on a station that talks sometimes about conspiracy theories, and that's what this book about, Department of Truth. It's one of my favorite comics, especially in the last few years. Do you find that fiction when it comes to this kind of stuff, whether it be movies, comics, TV, and your dose of reality of this, if you can say reality and conspiracy and theory at the same time, do you find it kind of all blends together? Because I'm guessing the things you hear on the radio on a daily basis are some of the similar topics that could have been in here, right?
Absolutely. And there was one, I don't know if it's verbatim in here, but it's something that I hear all the time. If they're lying about this, what else are they lying about?
Yes.
And you don't think much of it, but it's such a powerful thing because it opens up the possibility that all these other conspiracies can be true. And I don't want to jump ahead on what we're going to talk about, but there's one part of this where there's these multiple envelopes. And it's basically this information about how Dulles, who was director of the CIA, set into motion decades ago every president from, I think it was George Bush's dad, all the way through Barack Obama.
Yeah, George H.W. Bush, so instrumental in a lot of, we'll say, conspiracy and real life known things, being CIA involved. And, even, it's not covered in this issue of Department of Truth, but, like when Reagan was shot and, obviously didn't die. And then it's like, oh, what was that? There's a lot of things that tie together based on, it's that combination of, there's something that I found was powerful in the comic that people not only feel the need to know something beyond what's presented, but it gives them a sense of power. I know a thing, you don't know a thing, and I want to tell you the thing so you think I'm smart. And that's something that I think it's covered in the comic, but we see that all the time. It's kind of like when you tell friends and family, like, you don't have to argue on social media about this stuff because you're not going to change anybody's mind, but they do it anyway. And it's because of that. I need you to know that I know something. And I need you to acknowledge it and hopefully follow me. It's like a combo ego, but at the same time, maybe lower self-esteem. Like, I need this thing. I need a thing and so to your point about through the years, and from here's a birth certificate that says Obama was born in Kenya. Okay. Here's this that says this is what really happened to JFK and everything in between. And it kind of covers all that. And in Department of Truth, by the way, James Tynion is the writer. From modern day comic writers, he's just one of the best.
It was so good.
Yeah. I'm glad you liked it.
Good. Yeah.
He's phenomenal. The art, Martin Simmons, I'm going to just kind of show a little on the screen here if you're watching the version on YouTube and all of that, but it's almost like a watercolors kind of style. Very different. And I read this a few years ago and I reread this one today before this because, I prepare for shows like this. I have to reread. I can't trust my memory. What am I, a listener of Xtra Sports? I don't have a fantastic memory. But the artwork, originally, it was so different than what I was expecting. But then I started to grow into the book and then even read other volumes later on. It fits very well. And to me, I feel like the artwork looks, because of that watercolor kind of like weird kind of look, different than anything else you've ever seen. It almost feels like it's hitting parts of your brain, like your memory. So because of its looking kind of strange, like the reds are very different than a typical red. It's just the way it is. I mean, even when they have like notes on like, war and they're trying, it almost feels like this goes with the brain. If I wanted the art to be different, because if it was a typical art style, I don't know if the content would hit the same, but this kind of feels that way.
Well, and it gives off, this whole, for lack of a better word, like shady, like all of this, all that's covered in here is very shady and very cloak and dagger. And I feel like the artwork in here, I found myself like really looking almost like it's one of those 3D things where you gotta like look past, like it draws you in. And you're kind of like almost expecting, if you really look hard enough, there's going to be a person or something.
Yeah,
that you don't
you're going to see something. That's kind of what I was looking. You said it better, but it was the concept of there's other things going on when they talk about the main character Cole, like from his childhood and things that were going on, and in the 80s during the Satanic Panic, like if you play Dungeons and Dragons and listen to heavy metal, you're going to hell and all that kind of stuff. And there are little things that are in the background. And by the way, so this is a five issue book here. And while they do go together, because as the fourth and fifth issue start to take hold, you start to see the overall theme of the comic, but they each have their own kind of separate stories there. So at the beginning, they go back to JFK because Lee Harvey Oswald, there's not really spoilers so much in here, but there's Lee Harvey Oswald is an instrumental character in this. And you'll find out kind of how he fits into that. So they start off in 1963 and then move on to modern day from there. And the main character, Cole, you really don't know, is he a good guy or bad guy? Is he working for the good guys or the bad guys? And do you like him or do you not like him? So it's kind of all the questions you typically have about a main character, whether it's anti-heroes, for example, when you're, like Walter White or Tony Soprano are bad guys, but we're like, wow, yeah, but I understand though. I mean, they're kind of like, is it that? Because you feel for him. He had to kill a couple people. It's like, well, it's part of the job. So is that good or is that bad? I don't know. Normally you kill people cold blood. It's kind of like, well, not really a good guy.
And then it's also the idea of what's the greater good here.
Yeah.
And when we establish ourselves what the greater good is, then we're willing to stretch our boundaries on morality to the nth degree, right? If this is what's best for everyone, for the whole country, the whole world, then what are a couple of people along the way sacrificed in order to get this greater good?
Well, every war, everything, it's all in the name of something, usually, religious beliefs, but any kind of belief to that point, and I always love kind of the imagery, by the way. Here's our lovely Ronald Reagan there. By the way, this comic, if you're a collector of different covers, there's so many different covers. I have one. It's not on display. I'll have to show you sometime, Ryan, but it's I forgot what issue it's the cover of, but I got a graded one, and it's like a parody of Nirvana's Nevermind. But and it's just, they've got like just hundreds of variant covers that are all just works of art that are all kind of, these characters in here are sort of like this devil-like Jackie Onassis kind of character that will pop up from time to time. And the overall theme, because I kind of, I'm sorry for kind of bouncing around a little bit, but the overall theme is if enough people believe something, then it's true. That's the theme, right? So we want to believe certain things, and it goes back to being right and telling someone, I know a thing, I want to tell you this thing. So if I tell you, if I'm Kyrie Irving, here you go, Ryan, and I say, hey. I
thought you were going to go Aaron Rodgers, but Kyrie.
Oh, okay. He's in the next episode. It's like, hey, guys, Earth is not round. It's flat. Let's just go to practice. I'll tell you more, I got to tell you about this thing. And it's a little bit like, I want you to come to church with me on Sunday. You got to hear what it's all about. It's a lot like, hey, I got this little pamphlet I want you to read. It's a lot of these things. I need people in with me on this. I need someone in this idea with me. And if enough people are in, it is, right? It exists. If the majority think it exists.
Right. And that's the line I was going to get to was, shouldn't majority rule?
Yeah.
One of the characters in the book says, shouldn't majority rule? If most people agree on this, shouldn't it just be true?
Yeah.
And I thought what was so neat about this is it's not that, hey, all the conspiracies that you grew up believing or hearing people believed are true. It's they're not true, but we can will them into existence.
Yeah.
And that was fascinating. I thought there were a lot of parallels with real life, but that was a really cool spin on this conspiracy culture that we.
It's kind of interesting because James Tynion is very liberal too, by the way. So there was a little bit of not backlash, so to speak, but like maybe confusion. It's like, first off, everybody, it's a story. We're trying to sell comic books here, so it's a story,
fiction.
But also, when I tell somebody about this book, I go, oh, it's a really cool book. It's one of my favorites, and it's all about conspiracy theories, how what's real and not real. And they're like, oh, you're into all that. It's like, okay, guys, first off, years ago, in high school, I loved reading stuff about this. So now it's horrible to want to like read this kind of stuff. I had books about secret societies when I was in high school. I remember reading Jesse Ventura's book, I Ain't Got Time to Bleed, where he talks about, the skull and bones and they're choosing our presidents. So 20 years ago, it was okay to read that stuff and talk about that stuff. But now you do it and you're a crazy person. And
right. And it's, and two, for both sides of the equation, like this doesn't vilify people who believe in conspiracy theories.
Right.
And so I think that's the other part, because I deal with a lot of people on the other side of the aisle, right? That think that a book like this is going to make them look like idiots, or that it's like, no, it's far beyond. It's about something much bigger than that. It is not vilifying people.
No,
that
there's a couple scenes at the beginning that kind of do, but not really. Yeah. Like when they're like all the polo guys in polo shirts all lined up and everything at the.
Yeah, there's a little bit there that you got to press.
But there's also
one of those. But once you get into it, it's beyond the point who believes in conspiracy theories. Yeah.
There's something that, and I'm going to go back and read. I bought like the big. I don't remember how many issues it covers, but I have the hardcover of this as well, and I think it's like 3 or 4 volumes. And then they stopped for a while and came out with issues, and I'm waiting to reread it again and hopefully get like all of it together in collected editions. We can read it all together, but. When I read it the first time, and I forgot how far in the future, I'm not trying to spoil anything, but it keeps going. Like, this is merely 1 volume and it's 5 issues. It gets into things like back in the old days, before we actually wrote down history. Like, there's a moment like we just skipped like 400 years. Why? Because the guy who was taking care of the calendar said it's now 900 AD, not 500 AD. Just everyone changed their stuff. And it was like, what happened to those 400 years? We don't talk about those 400 years.
Like daylight savings time. We just lost an hour and we don't know where it went.
So I'm going to reread all that, but it's something that it's a great book. It's also, I mean, there's some heavy stuff in here too, because they do talk about 9/11. They talk about Sandy Hook, and there's an Alex Jones character in there that's like this false flag and all of that. And there's a mom there that's their kid died there. It was just like, there's some heavy stuff too. It's something that, this is my third episode of Comics.fm, the kind of the real episodes, and we've done superheroes so far. And I like all kinds of books, and I'm happy to bring some of these because they don't all have to be like Superman books. This is something that, it's just a medium, right? Comics is like movies or TV shows, just a medium, how you absorb something. But this is as intricate and as detailed as any type of conspiracy TV show or movie you're going to get, and gets you wrapped up and can be as heavy as any of that.
Yeah, I really enjoy, obviously looking at the cover when you sent it to me, I was like, okay, I get why he's having me read this. But as I get into it, I'm like, this is right in my wheelhouse, because even the more, the comics and the characters that my kids like,
yeah,
there's still, in today's day and age, an ability for comics to kind of help people filter what's going on in the real world, or have, that kind of a thing. And this is just a darker, heavier kind of aspect of this is not Marvel or DC that my kids use, but
this is, I would say this is a little
purpose.
A little more like on the nose with what it is, as opposed to like a metaphor for it. And like, I remember years ago, I remember buying a Spider-Man comic right after 9/11, and it was an issue where he was like, I should have been there. I should have stopped this. I should have, and it was like, oh my God, and however old I was when I got that, it's like, man, this is intense. The whole cover was black of the issue. And that was like, okay, this is real life. And, we talked about, when I was on a previous episode, the morality of things, and it's covered in, of course, Marvel, Civil War, Batman versus Superman. It's kind of like good, evil, or should we be intervening? All those kind of like parallels to the real world. And then you get a book like this, which is so involved with what's going on. It's literally everything that you hear from, I mean, all day long we're inundated with, it shouldn't be politics all day long, but everything is politics. You know this because even your sports world was was overtaken by politics 5-10 years ago. And that's what we're dealing with all the time. And the cool thing about this book is, to your point, it doesn't vilify people that think differently, but it also kind of says, well, what if some of them could be true, and who created them? Why are they creating them? Why are they keeping those ideas from us? And it's makes you kind of just wonder out there, because we've heard things like the moon landing was fake, or JFK was not shot by Lee Harvey Oswald. There was 5, 6, 7 or more other conspiracies, which they cover that in the book too. Like, you know what? That one's hard because there's too many different paths you could have taken it. So now we don't know. Like, we should have just had one like kind of swerve of where we went with that. But it's all kind of covered there. And then you start to really realize, who does it benefit? Who does it serve? Keeping people either docile so they don't kind of cause problems. But really, to your point, the beginning of this show was, what else are they hiding? And how is it all connected from there? Yeah,
it was. I'm excited to read the rest of this, though, because this one kind of leaves you on a bit of a cliffhanger.
It does, for sure. Yeah, because then you've got the main character who's basically, he's working for this new organization. Do you have like a favorite panel, or like
I said, the part with the envelopes where they have set up,
that was good.
The presidents for an entire generation to help serve the military industrial complex. Yep. But the one that obviously, and I'm sure you could guess, it's Blucifer.
Yeah.
Where they put Blucifer, the demonic horse that sits outside of Denver International Airport.
So the fifth issue in this one, the first scene is, Denver International Airport. And I'm thinking, like, I totally forgot, by the way, when I picked this for you, that was covered in this book. And I was like, oh, that's even better, because it's perfect for that. And I mean, how many stories growing up in Colorado, you've heard all the stories about what's going on underneath the airport, right?
Yeah. What's funny is that I didn't hear a lot about it actually growing up. But since I've gone into adulthood and been around people from other places that come into Denver, that's the source of all of it. They're like, hey, I can remember the first time somebody's like, so what about the reptilian people underneath DIA? And I was like, what are you talking about? So it's more in my, maybe my experience is just different, but actually growing up, I didn't hear a lot of that. And then it was from people from outside of Colorado that I started to interact with that said, hey, do you know what's up with your airport? And then obviously.
Well, and it kind of makes sense if you grew up in it and you're being told things by the reptilians. Why would they have
That's
told
true. You? The first rule of the reptilian race is that the people in Colorado can't know about the reptilian race.
Oh, so it's not like Fight Club. I thought it was don't talk about the reptilian race.
I was trying.
You were trying. I would say the second rule of being in the reptilian race is a lot of like lotion, a lot of aloe on those scales. Just especially, when you're a mile closer to the sun, that's a big deal. My favorite panel, I mean, obviously there's so many good ones, but one that made me chuckle was this one. So there's a character working for the Department of Truth. They call him Hunky. And it's this kind of fat guy that lives in there. And he's got, wait, what is that shirt? It's Fart Goblin. Like I'm guessing like a band he must like. And they're bringing in pancakes because they got to keep that guy happy. So there's people that are working for the Department of Truth that, are sort of like almost modern day characters, like a young hacker girl. It's kind of a smart ass. This guy, I just like that he's got a shirt that says Fart Goblin on it. That made me laugh because it's all this heavy stuff going on.
Yeah. And he's a character that you see in all these kinds of
right.
Movies,
right, exactly.
Right?
There's always that guy.
He's always locked in the back room.
Yeah, right.
He's never fit. He doesn't have great table manners.
No.
Like
why is that?
Two
like
lines in, he says something inappropriate to somebody he's just
right because
met.
he doesn't have social mores of or
he's
whatever.
Watching TV all day.
Right. He's like, actually, it's like, yeah. Why is it like? If anything, it vilifies that guy. And I mean, we could probably blame The Simpsons for starting it with Comic Book Guy. He was kind of the original, like.
Yes,
that guy that knows it all. But yeah, Department of Truth. I'm glad you liked it, Ryan. Definitely check out the other volumes as well. James Tynion, so he's also written some Batman books. I think he did Batman versus Ninja Turtles. And his big other book he does is called Something is Killing the Children, which is like a horror series there, which is great. So if you want to get into comic books, part of why I do this show is to kind of get rid of any of that gatekeeping that goes on with certain nerdy hobbies. You can jump in with anything you want. It doesn't have to be anything superhero. You can never read a superhero book. There's so much out there from mysteries and horror. And there's one we're going to review coming up called Ice Cream Man, where it's kind of like Twilight Zone and Black Mirror kind of stuff going on, where every issue is a different thing. This is another one of those books where it happens to be in a comic book medium. And it actually, to your point, Ryan, fits very well because that's everything looks shady. Everything's like, what was that? What did I just see? What was I just told? What's going on here? And the art blends perfectly. It's different. I don't think this art would have worked with a typical book. It has to go with this kind of story.
100%. And I would say that this is, your point about, not the gatekeeping. Yeah. And I certainly deal with that, with different sports and the fan bases gatekeeping. Oh, you can't, this is a good one that's like, it's a comic book, but it's really not. I mean, they could easily put this in novel form.
Totally.
And this would be, it would be more okay for people. Like, it's really good.
This could be a Max or Netflix series as well, too. You're exactly right with that. And it's something that's part of why I do this show is one, to kind of talk to radio people about comics, obviously, and let people show off a little bit of a nerdy side and talk to them because we're going to talk about some radio stuff in a second. But also just to kind of let people know it's okay to get into stuff, give it a try. Walk into your local comic store and say, hey, got anything like this? And they're going to say, yeah. And they usually won't be like that guy Hunky. They'll be actually like the people working at the comic stores are all like nice and normal. Yes. It's the customers. that's the difference.
And they do see the sun on a daily basis, and they are very pleasant to be around.
That's right. Because there's a line where he says something and he's like, I usually don't see the sun or something like that in there. Obviously, you like it. That's great to hear. When it comes to like the radio side, so you've been doing this since college, right? You started as like an intern or no?
Yeah, so the first radio job, I was working at my college radio station, and I got a job calling play-by-play for a junior college.
Okay.
That was my first job out of college.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. It's something that the landscape has changed in the last, so this is probably 15, 20 years for you doing this?
Not quite.
Not quite. Okay.
I think at my current employer, I'm at about 10.
Okay.
And then a couple years here and there, there's been some gaps before I got to where I am now.
It's different these days. Would you still recommend this? So if somebody said, I want to get into broadcasting, would you say you could, or maybe you just start your own thing? Because there's no barrier to entry. Anyone can start a podcast. Anyone can start a YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. However, if you have a following or a platform, it probably makes it easier, right?
Yeah. Look, there's been a little bit back and forth, and I'm going to sound, I'm not trying to sound highfalutin, but it might come across that way. I think that what I do, and I can throw TV into this mix as well.
Well, you're on TV sometimes, by the way.
I am, but I look at that as the highest level of broadcasting, and maybe I'm totally biased in that. I think that podcasts are great, and I think that it's a great way. I wish that I had the ability to just start something up when I was coming up, because that option just wasn't there. You had to go through certain channels. But I still think that if you really love broadcasting or doing a talk show or whatever, I still hold radio and television in that high regard to say that's where I would suggest what people strive for in their career. Maybe you're not going to be able to do it, and it's great that there's other things, but I still very much look at radio broadcasting as the highest level of,
do you think it gives somebody
medium.
It gives somebody more cred?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it absolutely does, and it helps lead to other things. If you are somebody, I wanted to be in play-by-play since I was very young.
Yeah. The
talk show part of what I do came along much, much later. It wasn't even something but I would say that one didn't happen without the other.
Yeah.
I think if you get into radio, I think it opens far more doors for you than if you just stuck to podcasting. I think we're still seeing that quite a bit in our industry, that even though there's more of an impetus for radio companies to start looking at podcasting and getting into it and pulling people from the podcast world, I still think that more opportunities come your way if you have the kind of platform that I have had. Because the play-by-play jobs I have, I wouldn't have gotten it if I wasn't in radio already.
You're in Vegas right now about to cover women's Air Force basketball. So that's not something that would be given to a podcaster, No,
I don't think so. I think radio people are going to start to pull more and more from the podcast world, and then maybe those people can then go down other avenues.
Yeah, it's interesting because and it's no knock on anything, because people have a lot of followings from YouTube to TikTok, podcasts, but if you apply for press credentials to go on the field and do something, you're going to get it instantly. Whereas if I said, hey, I've got the JP happy hour, like, what is that? Oh, it's great. I've got a bunch of subscribers. I don't know. Even though it should feel like, hey, I put a lot of work into this from professional equipment or whatever, there's still a built-in level of credibility that goes with it. And I want to say, you are right. You do sound very highfalutin when you talk about all this.
I know. I was going to. And
no, I like that you use that word. It's one of my favorite words, highfalutin. So I'm just happy that you pulled that out without planning, by the way.
Yeah. I think you're right that the credibility part of it is something. And look, my show isn't listened to as much as a ton of different shows. Like, in no way, shape, or form am I the most listened to or even close. But you're right. If I want to go cover the NCAA tournament, or I want to cover the NFL draft or something like that, I'm going to get in even over somebody who has hundreds of thousands of likes on YouTube. Yeah,
there's no doubt. It's something that we never take it for granted. We sometimes will take a station vehicle and drive somewhere. And it's like, the analogy I always use is if you try to sneak into a movie theater, you just walk right in, just act like you belong. No one's stopping you. Same kind of thing in the broadcast world. I'm going to drive the station vehicle. I'm just going to park on this grass. Hey, can you, I'm not going to ask anybody. If I ask, they're going to say no. If I just do it, they're going to assume someone else above them said it was okay. And they don't make enough money to fight this battle. So everybody lets.
You've clearly thought about this much more than
always.
I have.
It's always to the point of nobody wants a fight. So I've always learned if you just, quick story. You may have heard this one, but when I went to Red Rocks for the first time, it was for that Weird Al concert. And I'm like, all right, first time seeing Weird Al. I've been a fan forever. And first time going to Red Rocks, I always wanted to go. And we were giving away tickets at KKFM, but not anything more, not backstage, not meet and greets or whatever, but we were giving away tickets. So I went early, way early, and I went to some of the people by the gate there, and there was really nobody there because it was so early. I tried to go when I showed my badge, like lanyard. And by the way, lanyard also is code for made on the printer at work with a laminator. Like, it's not, would it be great to have like hard plastic? Sure. If that costs more than $2, we're not doing it. You have that, like, I got this. They're like, oh, hold on. I'm like, well, I had tickets. And I said, I got to get in because we're going to have some listeners that want some early access to get in. Like, oh, really? Do you have something about them? Like, yeah, no problem. So I go to my email and I have the email that from AEG that says about you're approved for a ticket giveaway. And I go, I'm like, I have this email. I'm like, oh, where's the one that has, they were asking me for an email about what I'm asking for to get in early. And I'm like, I can't find it, but I got this. So kind of like Department of Truth, you start to piece the little things together. I go, all right, well, I got the lanyard. I'm acting the part. I'm acting highfalutin, as you say. I'm showing them thing. And I go, my favorite line, I talked to Mike. There's always a Mike. I go, I swear to God this happened. I go, I talked to Mike. They're like, oh, you did? I'm like, I did. It's all handled. Like, okay, go ahead. And I got in 2 hours before the show. I have actually on I think it's on Instagram. I know it's on my TikTok at JP4 Media, but it's me with a video of Weird Al doing a sound check 2 hours before the show starts. Because just like Department of Truth, if enough people believe it, it is truth. I was there.
On you, man.
I was there for a meet and greet. And you know what's weird? There was a woman there all in red and she had X's for eyes. And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to die. That's a character you'll see from the book there. Ryan, broadcast has gotten you a lot of things, access and the platform. What's the coolest celebrity you've ever met or interviewed?
Well, I think, being a part of the entire ride of Nikola Jokic into being the best basketball player in the world, I think has been really cool. And I think back to when he went to the Olympics for Serbia and he came back and it just felt different with him because he got on a world stage and people were like, oh, who is this guy? And then from then on,
that was before he won his first MVP though, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. But he played in the Olympics and I saw it with Carmelo Anthony too.
Was that 2016 probably?
I think you might be right on that.
Yeah.
Because he had been in the league for a couple years and there was a thought that, the Nuggets had something in him. And then he went and played in the Olympics. Yeah. And people saw that with a better supporting cast around him and everything and like, whoa, this guy. And then he just was different from then on. And I saw it with Carmelo Anthony too. He was always a very talented player, but there was some off the court stuff and how dedicated was he to his craft. And he played with the Olympic team and then he came back and his career took off. So I saw the same thing with Nikola Jokic and now with him being a 3-time MVP, maybe 4 this year.
So
that's been one of the coolest things.
Jokic remembers you, I'm guessing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he deletes me and every media person he's ever met from his mind immediately after stepping off the
I will
podium.
say that's one thing I love about him. He treats basketball like his job, like it's the show Severance. He's a different person. He's like, I come here, I go to work, I do my job, I'm really good at my job, then I go. I don't care about anything else. He doesn't get wrapped up in anything else.
But the genius of it, and it comes from a real place, but it's he's doing a bit because he knows that if he doesn't, if he's just putting out that 9 to 5 vibe, then I think he feels protected in that he doesn't have to do all these things that come along with being an NBA superstar.
Kind of like,
if he can just blow it off.
Is it kind of like how Snoop Dogg has had a pass to smoke weed wherever, forever? Like, listen, I've established this is my thing, no matter what. And it's and much like Department of Truth.
Wrong way.
If Jokic believes it and enough people buy into, man, this guy doesn't really he kind of has that don't care vibe. I'm just here so I don't get fined kind of vibe. It must be true, even though the reality is he eats, sleeps,
he's a maniac.
Yeah.
He's as dedicated as anybody to his craft. Yeah. But if he can show up and show up late to a post-game press conference and kind of, diminish everything that he does and talks about that he wants to go ride his horses, then people will just kind of leave him alone.
Yeah. Do you think, just quick side note, just because, I got you on the sports topic, with the rise of European basketball being so huge the last 20 years, current NBA, top 5 European can beat top 5 American?
Yes. And that's why the NBA won't do the obvious thing, which is say, hey,
they're out of
let's
ideas.
Make the All-Star game Team USA versus Team World. Let's do this.
Honestly, on that note, why did they ever stop the East-West thing? Why was that stopped? I honestly don't know.
I think it had to do with the imbalance.
Because West was
between
better always?
East and West, because the West was always considered better. So I think they got in a little bit too, just to change it up because the format had gotten a little bit stale. But I think it was because the West was perceived to be so much more dominant, and all these stars were in the West. And it's like, well, why would we
in baseball,
do this East-West thing?
Yeah, for years, baseball American League always dominated too. So I don't know. It was kind of
it's a bit of a cop out,
a little bit.
For them to change their format.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you've had champions like the Celtics and the Bucks. And if you were, because I know your kids, you love Marvel and you go to all the movies, you're involved in all that. We already know you're super dad to your kids. We already know that. If you were a superhero, what would be the movie? What's your power? And who is playing you?
Okay. So, I think that it would be like early Professor Xavier.
Okay.
Like from the prequels.
Okay.
Right?
With, so the James McAvoy.
James McAvoy. Like I don't want to be bald and have
you have great hair.
I want to be young.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to be young James McAvoy.
Would you rather be wheelchair with hair or bald and not wheelchair? Because Professor X. I'm just saying, you're risking a lot to get that power.
Yeah, but I would probably say I'd want the hair.
Okay.
Yeah. Not that this hair has gotten me very far, but I enjoy having this hair.
No, it's great. It definitely. If you had that telekinesis power, would you say, I want you to listen to Xtra Sports? Whoa. You see those balloons?
I did.
What is that?
Is it your birthday?
No. Did I do
Wait,
something?
let me try.
Oh my God. Hold on a minute. I'm not even playing around right now. Did everybody see the balloons? Or did only me and Ryan see the balloons? Because if enough
summon the balloons.
Oh my God. Wait a minute. Is that because I did the clap? Hold on. No. Because I did that to do the timing thing. You're not going to know that, you the viewer, but that's crazy. It's not my birthday. Birthday. Happy birthday.
Congratulations.
It's like, computer, show me balloons. But you could say, if you had that power though, Ryan, you could say, listen to Xtra Sports 1300. And then in their own head, they're like, I don't think my dial goes that high. And then you say, it does go that high.
I don't think I have an AM radio in my car.
What is radio?
No, see, that's the thing, is that I would only want Charles Xavier's powers so I can know if somebody doesn't like me.
Oh.
That's all. Like, am I trying to change the world? Am I trying to change hearts and minds? Absolutely not. I just want to know if a person I am approaching doesn't like me, or what they're thinking about me behind my back. That's really what I want this for.
So
it's not for any good.
Do you want to hear their thoughts, or you just want a sense of like or dislike?
Yeah, maybe I just need... Is there a superhero with just the power of empathy? Like, that's what to be an empath.
So was it in Guardians with the
Mantis?
Mantis, yeah. Is that,
yes.
Yeah. So
So I would just like I don't need. I'm not that invasive. I don't need to know exactly. I just need to know, does this person not like me? And then I will make sure to steer clear or spend every waking moment of my life from then on out trying to change their minds.
Yeah, that's really good because it gives you like little side missions all the time, whether you want to take them or not. What would be the name of that movie? And who's going to play you, by the way? Because it's not going to be you. No offense, Ryan. You're on TV here and there, but you're not an actor.
No, I'm not. Gosh, what's the Gleason?
Dominic Gleason?
The one that was in the
movie
The
Hobbit?
About the AI, the robot. Dom Hall Gleason, right?
That's
His name.
I'm thinking the guy from The Hobbit. I'm probably wrong, though.
Oh, no, that's Monahan.
Oh,
right.
I've got all my Irish Dominics confused.
No, Gleason, because the red hair. I think would be important.
Yeah.
In that, and it would be called. I don't know what it would be called, but it would be worse than any post Endgame Marvel movie.
Yeah, it would be like.
I mean, it would be like Kraven the Hunter or Morbius, like that
right.
that level.
Yeah,
nobody would go see.
We're
it.
in the era of movies where I'm not even going to see those or watching those. That era. Yeah, I think that would be good. Like phase 7.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just called Liked. Liked.
Liked.
Period.
There you go.
Lowercase.
That sounds like a. That sounds like a Jordan Peele movie. Liked.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And then you find out they're all like werewolves or something, or some kind of twist at the end there. So, Ryan, thank you so much. I know you got a lot going on. Appreciate you talking to me from Vegas. Are you doing any gambling while you're out there or no?
I'm already up $100, my friend.
Wow. Is that your talent fee for going there?
No, it's all gone. It's my per diem.
Okay, got it. I was thinking about Vince Vaughn in that movie, not Swingers, but the one that came afterwards with him and Jon Favreau. He's like, "This is my per diem or your per diem? My per diem? It's the two of them again. It wasn't as good. I forgot the name, but it was not Swingers by far.
Okay, because that's the one obviously.
Yeah, everyone knows. But I want you to do very well in Vegas and your career as well. Thanks so much for joining me. Anything you want to plug out there?
Well, if you're into sports, Xtra Sports 1300. Or
streaming.
Follow me on social media at Gingerly Tweets, at Kaufman Sports on Instagram, and I live stream my show every day.
And you cover everything. It's not just Colorado sports. You cover everything.
Sure, because I'm not talented enough to get 3 hours out of just Colorado sports. So I'll touch on other things as well to fill the time. Yeah.
If you're a fan of comics.fm, here's a mug right here. Ryan, you got the sticker and a comic. You're already up. So you're up $100. And you got a comic and a sticker.
Boom. Right here.
You're winning.
I'm winning in life.
Charlie Sheen would say winning from 12 years ago. He would say that. Yeah, you're already up. I love that. So follow comics.fm everywhere on social media. I put a lot of other videos, quick little reels up there, various other comic and toy things I'm doing out there. And we will have another episode with another radio person talking comics coming up on comics.fm. Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, JP.